Hello and welcome to the video. This is a video of this thing here. This is the Jumper T20. Now, I did a video a while ago of the new Radio Master radio, and lots of people responded to that video saying, oh, can you do the same thing for the Jumper T20? So yes, of course I can. And for all of you that asked, this is the video. Now, a lot of the smaller radios that seem to be coming out at the moment appear to be aimed at quad flyers only and seem to omit the extra switches and trims that fixed pilots need. And unlike many of the other radios on the market, the smaller ones in particular, this Jumper T20 appears to be aimed at pilots with a broader range of needs and models. The T20 is a compact full-size radio, not one designed to be shoved in a backpack without a proper hard case. And it's only when you put it by the side of something like the Radio Master Pocket you can see the differences, and it kind of jumps out at you straight away. I know it did for me when I got these two side by side and had a quick look. You can see here that the gimbals are full size. And although in terms of the depth, it's pretty much the same, this new T20 is a lot thicker and is also quite a bit wider as well. And I think these are aimed at completely different markets. This is absolutely not designed to be shoved into a backpack and have the gimbal sticks removed. This is more a replacement for a full-sized radio, giving you a more compact option without having to sacrifice too many of the normal controls. Now, the specs on this are pretty good. It's a 1/3 of an inch OLED screen, has Hall effect full-sized gimbals, and those sticks are height adjustable as well. Foldable antenna at the top, 4 traditional switches. I'll show you all of these controls much closer in a moment, and there are 6 sliders and pots. Lots of other controls here as well, including some extra trim buttons here at the top, metal CNC wheel for navigation, and a 6-position switch here at the bottom that lights up that you get with stickers in the box for flight controls. There's an anti-slip pad on the rear to make it easier to hold, basically just rubber bits that are inserted. There's a single USB-C port on the top that's used for upgrade charge and SIM use, which is nice rather than have multiple USB ports, which can be confusing. It's all done in one. And there's a DSC port too, so that you can set it up as a trainer. Optional external module bay, the bits come in the bag, and for power it by default uses two 21700 LiPo cells, and it has an ExpressLRS unit inside this. Maximum power of 1 watt, and the weight without those 21700 batteries is about 443 grams. Now, one of the things I was interested in is what does it like inside. It's not easy to get into. There are 8 screws on the back, all posi drive, but you do have to go and hunt them out. But when you get into the back of it and crack it open, there are lots of PCBs connected by lots of different cables in here. It's hard without doing lots of connections to open it up for maintenance or replacing of a part. So it hasn't been designed with kind of upgrades and easy maintenance in mind. No ribbon cables though, which is nice to see, and everything in here seems to be pretty decent quality. Nice to see that the switches are separate. That's going to make them easy to replace and repair rather than have them on the PCB. And it's interesting that the little button behind the antenna, when you have to take that off the top, that's held in place by the 2 of the screws that hold the back on. Maybe that's a DFU button. So on the top we have the foldable antenna that folds out right the way around 180 degrees and also rotates 90 degrees. Love that feature. Having your antennas vertical whenever you can is a great way to do it when you're flying, particularly things like wings. Then on the top, if I swing that out of the way, we have a 2-position switch in this position, 3-position switches on the front. This feels like a 2-position switch, but it's latching. You can't press it on this side, it doesn't go in, but you can press it on that side, which makes it a little hard to use. There is a rotary control with a central detent, but it's not really hard detent. I'd prefer it harder. On this side, we have a similar set. We have a 3-position switch at the front, a 2-position switch here. Again, what feels like another latching switch, but it seems to pivot on the side. It would be nice if that whole switch went in. It would be easy to find it. And another large rotary control. This one, I can just about feel the detent on it. Then we have the USB port here, which is used for charging, SIM firmware updates. And we have a DSC port here, which is for your trainer cable. On the back, then we have the battery compartment, and under here we have the connections for the optional bay that can go on here. This is just a big heatsink for the ExpressLRS transmitter that is inside. Then if we turn it over, we can go through the rest of all of these different controls. Obviously, we have the full-size gimbals. These feel absolutely lovely, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but it feels so much more like a full-size radio when you're using it. You forget that a normal radio will have an extra, inch and a half of gubbins here at the bottom. You kind of forget that, and it's just a joy to use, both for thumbers, and it's also nice for pinchers because the gimbals are pretty close to the side. They could probably do with going slightly further out. The controls are height adjustable, which is nice if you want to do that. There are the usual trim buttons. These aren't screws, they look like them, but they aren't. These are actually the trims for the controls. There are two spare trims here up at the top, which could be used for other things. HTX is a very powerful system. You have the power button, press and hold it. The buttons light up. Welcome to HTX. And the radio comes on. Volume is currently, which one is it, that one? Volume on this is currently at the maximum setting. It is quiet, much quieter than I would like. A radio like this I'd want to use outdoors. I would need a little bit more volume, particularly if you're going to be setting up stuff for these switches when you're flying, kind of getting down to these. I like these, we'll get to these in a moment, but pressing these as Mohs buttons, although they light up, having some kind of verbal confirmation, so if you're not looking directly at them, would be great. Then we have two rotary controls, both of which have no central detent, all disappointingly. Then we have the two sliders here at the bottom, which go vertically. Not a massive fan of these. I guess, if you were flying a twin plane and you wanted to kind of, have the experience of pushing the throttles forward, you could do it with that. But, it means now we have 6 rotary controls on this little radio, but only 4 switches. I guess then what you could say is, well, hang on a minute, we have other switches here. We have this 6 position switch, and you can get a set of stickers in the box, as we've already looked at, and that means that you can put the stickers on here if you have a standard layout for your, kind of horizon, your return for launch and those things. I kind of get that. Then we have a metal rotary control, which feels very nice, actually. It doesn't feel bad at all. And then we have our usual navigation buttons to get you into the menu, the system menu, and to page backwards and forwards. Short press is for one direction, long press is another, and then you've got your exit as well. The screen itself, I would have preferred it to LCD. You can see it doesn't flicker in real life like it is appearing to in the video. The issue that I have with these, although it's super clean and easy to read like this, is that when you get it out in the really bright sunshine, it really washes a screen like this out. And it is incredibly small. If I just come out of this so that we can kind of look at stuff. It probably looks okay on the screen, but it's a real eye test. If you want to try and look at that, and you're an older guy or older girl with, that needs glasses, you're definitely going to have those on to be able to read the thing. If you're only ever using the screen, like most of us do, once you've got a model set up, just select that model and fly, and that's not that bad. In terms of the model, there is only one that's been supplied on this, called Model 1. Some of the radios tend to be shipped. Let's see if we can create a new model. So we'll hit enter, we'll say create model, and there's no wizards on here. So unfortunately, if you're going to set anything more sophisticated up, you know what, you're kind of going to have to go and just work your way through it and figure out all of the different pieces. Again, using the incredibly small font. There is a lot I like about this. I like this an awful lot more than I thought I would do when I got it in. I like the full-size gimbals. They are very comfortable in the hand, and they are great for both thumbers and pinchers. Being right close to the edge means that it's nice and comfortable, and because the radio isn't too thick, it's just thick enough to feel like a decent thing in your hand. So if you're used to a larger traditional radio, it isn't going to feel like a toy. But it's nice that they've thought about the ergonomics so that you can get your fingers and thumbs on it. And there are lots of other little cute ergonomic things that you only really realize once you use it. For example, the two switches here in the corners are actually installed at an angle. That's not a mistake. They're designed like that way because that's how your finger will catch them to turn them on and off. Really good attention to detail. The weight and feel is also very nice too. It isn't lightweight, but then it also isn't heavy. They've done a really good job of making it feel like a quality piece of kit without making it feel like you need a neck strap. And yes, it does balance from the neck strap. I like the fact that we have more switches on here than some of the other models. The fact that we now have 4 switches on the top is great. It means you've got an arming switch, you maybe have a return to home, there's maybe one for something like your 3 main flight modes, and then the other one could maybe use for auto tune or whatever it is. There's lots of options. It's not just useful for quads. And I like the fact that for the 6 position switches at the bottom, there are a load of stickers in the pack. So if you are an Ardu pilot and you want to do those kind of things, then you can actually label the buttons too, which is a lovely idea. There are a couple of things that I'll draw your attention to though. There isn't obviously a case supplied with this, so unfortunately you are going to have to source one for yourself. I'm sure that Jumper will sell you one for additional fee, but that is something you will need to make sure that this isn't damaged in transit. Having removable sticks might have been a nice option, but then you've also got all the switches which are going to get damaged if it gets dropped anyway. So a case is really unavoidable. The 21700 cells to run it, I personally would have liked the option, and you can run it from 18650s and also from a 2S LiPo as well. I've done all of that here, but having it default to 21700 without giving customers an easy way to convert, I think was a mistake. I understand they've done that for the power that you need when you're running ExpressLRS at the higher powers, but providing the connections for those other things kind of out the box would have been nice to see. The volume level, in my opinion, is way too low. This is very quiet, like the Radiomaster Pocket. There needs to be more volume if you're going to use this outside, particularly if you're going to be using the 6 position switches to control something like an Ardu Pilot model, where you're changing from horizon to fly-by-wire A, fly-by-wire B, cruise, return to home, missions, whatever it is. You want that announcement to be clearly heard. And for me, there are just too many rotary controls and sliders on this. I do not need this many. Radio configurations and layouts are absolutely a personal thing. And then probably other pilots out there looking at this thinking this is the bee's knees. But for me, I would have rather sacrificed 1 or 2 rotary controls for another couple of switches. Screen is an eye test, as I've already talked about in this. And also, I'm not a fan of them using something like an OLED screen. LCD screen is far better on stuff like this. It means that in bright sunshine you can still read the thing. And I like 4-button Edge TX navigation rather than the 3-button that's on this. Just again, a personal thing. This works absolutely fine, but for me 4-button is a much more intuitive way to get around. And the last comment I'll make about this is the detents on the rotary controls aren't strong enough either. So in summary, I do really like this design. With your hands on the radio, it feels a really good quality, and it feels in your hands like a much larger radio, thanks in a big part to those full-size gimbals. As I said at the beginning, this isn't a competitor for the Pocket, it's more like a competitor for the Boxer or one of those smaller, more compact radios. And because of the smaller size, it means that you don't need to take as much room up for stuff that you're not going to be using when you're flying. If Jumper had sent me an image of this when they were designing it, I'd have probably fed back 3 things to them. I would have asked them to lose 2 of the sliders for 2 additional switches. I'd have asked them to put a larger LCD screen at the bottom where the 4 sliders are. Why 4 sliders down here? I'm really not sure why we need this many sliders on a small compact radio like this, and to put more traditional trims where the current micro screen is. I think that would have been a slightly more conventional layout, maybe not as funky looking, but I think it would have been more useful for more pilots. How will it hold up over time? Well, only time will tell, as I'm sure that Jumper are aware that they do have a reputation for less quality compared to some of their competitors, and it does feel like they're trying to address that with this. But the build does feel well done, and having a look at the internals, they look okay too. I like this a lot more than I was expecting. This is an almost perfect replacement for a larger, traditionally laid out radio for pilots who like more than quads. But again, for me, it's just missing a couple of extra switches which would make it perfect for broader parts of the hobby. Thank you for watching the video. If you watch my videos and find them useful, then please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps the channel a lot. If you really like what I'm doing here, you can become a Patreon and support the time I spend helping others and get access to lots of exclusive benefits. Link is in the video description. Remember that all the videos on the channel are organized into playlists, so you can easily use those playlists to find all the videos on a subject that you are interested in. Add Painless 360 to your searches on Google and YouTube, and it'll help you find my content for any particular topic. Thanks again for watching, and as always, happy flying.